It is a good thing that we didn't have a show last night because, if you weren't aware, YouTube was down a lot last night. It was like not working for a while. It was like an hour or so where it just wasn't working. Videos were crashing and whatnot. So that is why we don't do a show on Wednesdays. Now, granted, YouTube could crash anytime, but luckily we didn't have a show last night where we don't usually have shows at night. So how about that? But we are doing this show today. It's Thursday, October 16th, 2025. High top here in beautiful Chamber of Commerce, Jacksonville, Florida. Those words that may not make any sense to you, but it is what we call in the weather community a Chamber of Commerce day. Beautiful, like 78 degrees, barely any clouds, no rain in the forecast. Nice, dry, cool air, which is a lot different than what it was like a month and a half ago when we were dealing with like the afternoon thunderstorms and like highs in the high 90s or whatever. Just absolute beautiful weather out there today. Where I am here in Jacksonville. Hopefully it is for you. But of course, this is, for Verticals Podcast, episode 136. We have more predictions here. We have the two games we didn't touch on the Tuesday show. We moved to today. So we have the Holy War, BYU, Utah, USC Notre Dame. We have our upset alerts as usual for week 8. We have Bucs Lions. So a lot of things to discuss here on the menu. If you are new here, first of all, welcome. By the way, a nice influx of subscribers. We got 2 more, I believe, up to 9. Hopefully, when we get 10 before the end of the year, I have no good authority. You might be able to. But if you're new here, the new subscribers, be sure to like the streams. Be sure to do that. And also be sure to comment. Give some feedback. Always love to hear you guys give feedback. And also, not to mention to subscribing to the YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to the podcast feed. I don't think a lot of folks realize we have a podcast feed on Spotify. Just look up the show title for Verticals. You should be able to find it. That's where we actually did most of our shows before we switched over to YouTube and did the streaming thing. So that's how the show used to be, believe it or not. And now we've sort of, evolved a little bit now. So now we're doing YouTube now. How about that? But, yeah, we have huge, not like a jam-packed show, but I have it on Good Authority again. We may, not again, but I have it on Good Authority, but that the upset alert segment could be, I'm not saying the most elevated we've had this year, but certainly the one that might be the more interesting one. I'll just say that. But again, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe on YouTube channel, podcast feed. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, X, at Verticals. I believe, actually, we'll look it up. I don't always memorize our Twitter handle. I should probably memorize that. Let me double check here. Yeah, so it is. Usually I should know this, but I don't. It's at @4verts_pod on Twitter. There we go. But looks like someone's watching. So hello there. If you're watching, again, make sure you subscribe, like the videos, streams, and follow us on X, Twitter, and the podcast feed on Spotify. There should be links to all of that in the channel description. And yeah, that's it. Again, we cover college football here, Marvel, Star Wars news, which at the moment for Marvel and Star Wars, there's no real news to be had. It's kind of a dry spell, but it is what it is. When there's news to talk about, we'll talk about it. But at the moment, college football, we have Bucs Lions on Monday Night Football. We'll preview that. That's the only NFL team we talk about, by the way. So if you're expecting, Giants or Jets talk, you're not getting in here. Unless Tampa plays them, we'll talk about them. But we're not going to openly discuss them. All right. More Week 8 predictions. Again, we did the rest. Mostly SEC teams on Tuesday. So go back to the Tuesday show if you want my thoughts on the SEC games, the big ones. But we have 2 more here. And first up is Utah at BYU, the Holy War. God forbid they change the name. I hope they don't change the names. This is a great name. That and the Civil War with Oregon State. Bring it back. But Utah, BYU. Kind of a game that no one's going to be talking about because it's not one of those big RP SEC games, but I care about it. Just to let you know, though, since the game is in Provo, so it's on the road for Utah. So if you were to guess what the FanDuel line is, if you had to guess, if you haven't looked at it yet, what do you think it is? BYU -3, -4, -10. Utah's the favorite. And I guess in the world of rankings, because BYU is higher ranked than Utah. In the world of rankings, that doesn't make any sense. How could the higher ranked team be a dog at home? But then you look at the power ratings and all these numerical models and stuff like that, all the models that spit out all these potential results. The models and the power rating world which if you don't know what power ratings are, it's just listing teams of who to be favored over who on a neutral field. This makes sense because BYU has, for the most part, look, they're undefeated. That's great. But they have struggled and struggled and struggled against teams that are either equal in talent or way worse talent. They've also struggled against the running quarterback. I believe in most of their games, like the Colorado game against West Virginia, I think it was their third string quarterback. So they have struggled with running quarterback. And I think if you're Tim Beck and you're the Utah offensive staff with Billy Napier, you're foaming at the mouth of the potential of him running over the place over BYU, even though it's on the road. But I also do consider that, it is on the road. It's a hostile environment. Look, I give the folks Provo some credit here. I mean, it's not like it's a snooze fest of a crowd. No, it's not. It's not a snooze fest. But here's what I will say. Again, going back to the whole power ratings thing and how I know when you bring that up and a lot of BYU fans sort of look at it as, oh, man, you hate BYU. You hate Kalani Sitake and the team. But no, we're not. Okay, even though we don't talk a whole lot about BYU on this show, I do like what Kalani has done out there. Been very consistent. He's had multiple 10-win seasons. He's done fine there. It's just, again, much like last year, you're either playing a workable schedule, you're dominating those teams, and you haven't faced anyone with a pulse yet, or that was last year, or this year, you're beating those teams still, but you're struggling again. Either you're struggling outright or you're struggling with certain things like the running quarterback, which makes this pick for me very easy. So that's me the case. The thing here for BYU, if they can stop the quarterback run, if they can prove it to us, all of us here, either you're watching the show or just all across the college football country, if you can prove it to us, BYU, that you can stop the QB run and actually, handle Devin Dampier and this Utah offense with Tim Beck as the OC, prove it to us. Because I don't think you can do it. So, again, the FanDuel line is Utah -3.5, the college football nerds model. So, Josh Daniel over there. It's a free website, so you don't have to sign up or anything. It's a free model. So, you can go on there, just search, I guess, college football nerds, and it should be one of the first results on Google. But you go to their model. They have Utah winning this game by 5.2. So, they'll be a 5.5, or not 5.5. They'll be basically a 5-point favorite, Utah on the road. That makes sense. Again, because of the whole fact that BYU can't stop the QB run, at least they have not shown the ability to do that. I think BYU, or I think Utah is going to win the game. I think they do cover. I think that line, I think is the right, the right amount, if you will, again, in terms of the spread. But it feels a little bit bigger. I'll probably say lean towards BYU covering just a little bit. But if it's a touchdown over, I would say BYU covers. But Utah being -3.5, I like that for them to cover just a little bit. So I do like Utah here. Next one, or I guess the last one, USC at Notre Dame. Classic rivalry, great hell of a game as usual. This one is in South Bend. This one could be impacted by some weather. Paying attention to the severe weather potential this weekend across the Midwest and the western parts of the South, as we are getting into late October, November, and the tornado season in the Southeast starts up again. And if you don't know, that does run from November to May in the Southeast. There's no two seasons. There's just one season. But, this game's happening. It's a rivalry game. No one's really talking about it, which is kind of weird, but we will. Could also be the last one for a while as well, which is sad. But this one's interesting to me. So the FanDuel line on this one is, in my opinion, pretty big. 9.5 for Notre Dame. Now, why would that be? Well, it's at home. USC, at least from what you have seen, for the most part, has not been able to stop the actual team with a pulse in terms of physicality. I know the Michigan game is out there. I know it's out there. I know it happened. I know it's a real thing. It's a real thing. It's not fake. But I also do have to honor that they did also struggle with Illinois, which could have been a lot worse. And even in the Michigan game, from what I've seen, as I wasn't able to watch the entire game, but even during the Michigan game, they were at times getting out physical a little bit. So that's why I feel like the number is there, because I think people are counting on Notre Dame with Jeremiah Love and sort of the way they have been improving on defense after the Miami game, especially the A&M game. I think the folks in Vegas are assuming that Notre Dame will be the more physical team, but I can't necessarily guarantee that. If you go back to the A&M game, Marcel Reed had, his passing percentage, the completion percentage wasn't wasn't like, like a Tom Brady number or a Baker Mayfield number or a Lamar Jackson number, but it was fine enough. I mean, he had a lot of explosive plays, and it makes me wonder, has that been a silly fix for Notre Dame? I don't know if it has or not. I mean, they have not faced a team offensively with a pulse yet since the game against Texas A&M. Like, they had like Arkansas and NC State. Those are, let's just be realer. At least at the time, they were crapper teams, especially NC State defensively. Look, so that one, I don't know if Notre Dame's totally fixed it defensively. I don't know that. Now for USC, again, I understand the Michigan game exists. I totally understand that. That's great. Okay, that's great that you guys showed that you can be physical against some of the more physical teams in the Big Ten, the legacy teams. But Michigan has a freshman quarterback who is playing college ball for the first time. Notre Dame has a QB in CJ Carr that, while he wasn't the starter last year, he's been at Notre Dame for a couple years now. So he's not new to any of this. He's already been battle tested. Whereas Bryce Underwood was sort of battle tested in a sense. And that concerns me for USC, at least defensively, that they are going against probably the best offense they faced all year, at least in potential, right? I mean, the passing game has been there for the most part from Notre Dame, running game not so much. It'll be interesting to see if they can get Jeremiah Love. I mean, obviously they'll give him carries, but I'm just wondering if he can spring off runs of 20, 30 plus runs against USC. I think he may be able to do maybe one or two. I don't know if he'll be able to consistently. Like, he doesn't have to be like Bryce Underwood. Jeremiah Love doesn't have to be like O.J. Simpson. He doesn't have to be like Walter Payton or Marcus Allen or any of these great running backs. He needs to be the best version of himself. That's all he needs to be. And again, can he get those 10-plus yard runs against a USC defense that, again, looked physical last week? Can that translate? I don't know. I will say for Notre Dame, though, again, they are facing an offensively pulse. I mean, Jade Mayava, quarterback there for USC, has been fantastic for them. Even in the loss against Illinois, that wasn't like his fault. Defense was just typical Lincoln Riley USC defense, right? Or Lincoln Riley USC Oklahoma defense. It wasn't as physical. But Mayava's not been the problem for them. He's been very efficient. And I wonder for Notre Dame, what happens if you face a team with a pulse? Because, again, which is really weird. So, I mean, look, this is the first time they've done it since A&M. And now you're facing a team with an actual pulse. And you also think about moving forward, probably the last team for the rest of the year, right? Because you have I think you have Stanford later in the year, and I think like Boston College. Those teams are nowhere near the offensive the offensive stature of a USC and Lincoln Riley. They're not, and that's interesting that this will be the last test for them defensively, at least I think, against an actual team with a pulse that has a good quarterback and a good offensive mind head coach. So, again, the FanDuel model, minus 9.5. The College Football Nerds model is Notre Dame minus 2.3. So it's a little bit lower than the FanDuel number. So they're expecting a closer game. I kind of agree with that. I have Notre Dame winning the game outright, but I do believe USC will cover. I expect it to be not a major shootout game, not necessarily a game that will go into the 40s or even the 30s. But I expect it to be fairly competitive, fairly close. I do believe USC will cover, but I think Notre Dame will win. So that is it for at least the games we're predicting, the last two we had. Now we're moving on. Get some water real quick. We'll mute here on YouTube, and we will continue on with the upset alerts, the traditional Thursday segment. So we'll be right back. Nothing's happening in the audio. We're just remuting real quick, so you guys don't have to hear me drink water. So. All right, we are back. Again, if you are new here watching live on replay, again, subscribe. YouTube channel, podcast feed. Again, we should be live on early Sunday morning, late Saturday night, doing our recap, breaking news recap, if you will, for college football. By the way, too, if there's any breaking news or whatever that we may have to go live for, we certainly can do that. I think we will probably be able to do that. Potentially for any coaching changes that happen on Sunday, we could do something Sunday night. So just be on the lookout for that. Is all I'm saying. Maybe if we have time permitting, if the schedule works out, we might be able to, but it's not a guarantee. Upset alerts here. This is Whew, so hot. I'm fanning myself here with this piece of paper here. Interesting upset alert segment here. So a lot of these games we have already previewed. I think there's one of them we've already talked about, which was South Carolina hosting Oklahoma. Excuse me. But a lot of these we have not talked about yet. And there's a reason why, because we were saving them for this segment. So first up here on the upset alerts, we're going mostly in chronological order. So just so you know. So this is tomorrow, actually. This is Friday night. So Louisville plays Miami. This is Miami's first game since the Florida State games. They have it off the entire last week. So they've already had their 2 bye weeks. So from now all the way until the end of the regular season, 7 straight weeks of college football for them. Whew, that's no easy task there. That is a big deal. I know a lot of folks in the NFL will, at least the NFL diehards, will say, "Oh, 7 straight weeks of football, get over it. They're professionals." Well, you have to understand these are still college kids, 18 to 24-year-olds. I mean, they're not true professionals yet. That's just how it is. But Louisville is going to Miami now. The thing here with Miami, and the same thing we talked about with Florida State last week, is a lot of these higher tier AACC teams over, it's like Clemson, Florida State, Miami. The concerns we always have with them, at least the concern has been around for a long time with folks who watch college football a long time like me, is that a lot of these bigger teams in the ACC, again, whether it's Miami, at least the bigger brands like Miami, Florida State, Clemson, they always have a tendency to sort of be very dismissive of these smaller teams and be like, "Oh, who we're playing? Oh, NC State, whatever, we should beat them." And then end up losing the game. Just very dismissive of them, not taking them seriously. Said that about Florida State last week. I said, I pleaded on the show, Florida State, do not let that be you. Take Pittsburgh seriously. They did not. They lost the game. Same thing with Miami. Take Louisville seriously. Do not let yourself be like Florida State last week and losing to one of the middling ACC teams. And I still think Louisville is a decent team. But, running back, Brown, he's been hurt. Miller Moss has been, okay for the most part. I think Miami should be fine. But and the fact that you saw what happened with Florida State last week, sort of that, again, this weird, thing that a lot of these higher tier ACC teams have with a lot of these lower tier or mid tier teams. The fact that they have a tendency to overlook them, just to honor that, I'm putting this in the yellow category. And for those of you who are new here, with the upset alerts, we do it now with numbers or whatnot. We don't do a scale of 1 to 10. We do it with colors. So green means we're watching it, but we're not concerned. Yellow, we're watching it, somewhat concerned. Red means the upset's probably going to happen. This one's in the yellow. We're watching it. I mean, like I just said, Miami, do not overlook Louisville, okay? They can still beat you, okay? Jeff Brom, that offense is very confusing. It's very complicated to stop. You're more talented than Louisville. You have the better quarterback. You have the best defensive line and O-line combo in the country. You should be able to overwhelm Louisville, but everyone could have said that about Florida State last week, and they lost. So just be careful. And this next one, talked about this on Tuesday. South Carolina hosting Oklahoma. It's October. It's at home. I believe it's a noon kickoff, or a little bit after noon on SEC Network. This one really concerns me. Even though I picked Oklahoma to win and slightly cover, it's slightly covering. I think the spread's only 4.5. That's not slightly covering is like by 7. So I still think this will be a very competitive game. It's on the road. It's John Mateer's first true road start in Southeast. Or Southeast. Well, in the Southeast, but in league play, right? I mean, their other road game was at Temple at a NFL venue, and then they were on the road in Dallas. So this will be his first time on the road in league play. I'm very concerned here for them. Again, it's October. That this is one of South Carolina's sort of mini Super Bowls, if you will. This is one of them. Bama's next week. Just be careful. Just be careful. That one is in the red category. I'm concerned there. On this next one, no one's talking about this one at all, really, except for, if you're tree bidding the guys over at Hawks 247. But Texas A&M and Arkansas, the Southwest Classic, not being played in Dallas anymore. They've ended that. It's over with. It's on campus finally for the first time in a normal year since, I believe, 2013. Thank you. This is on campus finally in a normal setting. I know 2020 is the outlier. That was also on campus, but in a normal year, this is finally on campus. I'm so happy. It's on campus now, and it's at Arkansas, and it's a game that I am a little bit concerned here for Texas A&M. Now, I think of A&M, the way folks are viewing them, it's, hey, they're impenetrable. There's some, they're one of like the current Goliaths in the sport right now. They're unbeatable. They're a total machine in terms of, defense and offense combined. And look, they are a good team. Texas A&M this year is, one of the better teams in the SEC, but they're not a team without flaws. Well, at least they have flaws that have been shown. They just have not been exposed properly, right? Meaning they haven't lost yet, and it's because of their flaws. They haven't been tested yet in terms of getting their flaws exposed properly. Could this be it? It's on the road again in Arkansas. First time Bobby Petrino is coaching in that stadium, and over like 15 years. Again, it's a Super Bowl spot for Arkansas. This is sort of similar to what happened with the Tennessee game last year. If you're A&M, be careful. Be careful. Okay, that's all I'm saying is be careful. I believe, too, the line from FanDuel and all the sports books is what, -7.5 for A&M, which is pretty big. So we're watching it, very much so concerned a little bit with Arkansas and A&M. But the thing with Arkansas, though, is that Porter defense is so bad. Even with the staff changes, I think A&M can take advantage of that. And I also believe that Marcel Reed and his legs could be a potential big factor here. So I am expecting this to be probably a competitive game, but I think A&M will still win. But still, this is Arkansas' Super Bowl spot. It's their first time back in Fayetteville, first time that Petrino will be on the sidelines there for the first time in, again, like 15 years or so. There is some concern here. Now, so that's in the yellow category, by the way. Next two here, sort of grouping these together. Michigan State is going to Indiana, and then Ohio State's going to Wisconsin. Both of these spreads, by the way, are 20 plus, I believe. I think it's like combined like 45 points total if you're to combine both of the spreads, I believe. The money line or the lines for the games. So both of these games I'm not really concerned about. Let me just get out of the way. These are in the green category. We're watching them, but I'm not totally concerned, right? Wisconsin, for all intents and purposes, is dead. That's just obvious, right? I think it's pretty much so expected that there will be a coaching change there in Madison, if not this week, maybe before the bye week. It's not necessarily a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when. Like I said on Twitter, Fickle is definitely on borrowed time right now. I don't really see any reason why to keep him around. The team is mostly dead. Now, the thing about it, though, for Ohio State is that it is on the road. We'll see if the fans show up. If Wisconsin somehow, if they can just make this game messier, right? Get into a phone booth, maybe you control the clock, keep the defense off the field, which has been atrocious for them the entire season. Maybe there's a path here. Maybe there's a path they can keep this into the fourth quarter. So, by the way, if there's a comparison, maybe that Northwestern game in 2022, I believe, for Ohio State, where the final score was 10-3 or something like that. Very weird, very low scoring game. Now, granted, that was mostly a weather situation because it was really windy and whatnot. But there's a path here for Wisconsin to at least make it competitive, right? Keep the team in the game, control the clock, maybe sort of do a lot more of clock management stuff. Dominate it at least offensively, at least by controlling the clock, and maybe keeping Ohio State off the field offensively, so your defense doesn't get exposed. That could be a path there for Wisconsin. I don't necessarily think so. Now, the other thing is that, even in some of these leagues, especially like a Big Ten, where it's very top-heavy and then the rest of the league is very, very poor, it's still tough to put up that amount of points in a conference game, especially in the Big Ten or in the SEC, especially in today's college football, including last year and this year. It's not something we're seeing a whole lot anymore. It still happens, but not very often. But I think this one in particular for Wisconsin, Ohio State, it's a big number. There's also the factor of Luke Fickell being an Ohio State alumni, and there's some talk that maybe Ryan Day is going to make an example of him. I don't know. There might be some personal stuff there, but that one, it's in the green category. I'm not too concerned about it, but we're watching it. Now, the Michigan State one, Indiana, it's interesting because I have been a big defender of Jonathan Smith. Jonathan Smith, of course, came from Oregon State, got there last year. They got, by the way, railroaded by UCLA last week. And, look, their defense is bad. There has been some discussions about potential regime change there, which seems odd to me because it'll be very quick to do that. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I don't think they're going to do it. But there has been some theories going around. Hey, could they potentially, could this be like a Brian Harsin situation at Michigan State where we made a mistake as a West Coast guy who's not, used to coaching in Big Ten territory? I don't know, guys. I mean, I thought he was going to work out there, Jonathan Smith. The roster was still not really that good. Their defense is kind of trash. Well, it is trash, not kind of. It is trash. But so yeah, I mean, I'm not totally buying against the whole regime change thing of Jonathan Smith. I'm not buying it. I mean, look, it could happen. It's definitely a possibility, but I think it's in that Florida State category where it's not happening this year. I think next year he's definitely on the clock, probably, unfortunately. But Indiana, they should take care of him. But the only thing, though, is that you are coming off a very physical game against Oregon, right? It's a very emotional game. Everyone's riding high. So the thing is it possible that while you didn't lose last week, the loss happens the week after with a team that is sort of, in wounded Spartan mode? I guess if you're Michigan State, wounded animal mode or wounded Spartan mode. It's a very proud program that has a history of having good defense, has been the case this year. Could they step up? Could they potentially be a team that, like I just said, Wisconsin, maybe dominating the clock, controlling the football, not letting Indiana have too many possessions. So that one's in the green, but that was borderline yellow just because of, again, you're coming off the emotional win over Oregon. You're sort of feeding off of the hype, and then you turn around and go, oh, we're playing Michigan State. Who do you lose to? Oh, UCLA. Congrats to UCLA, but Michigan State, you should take care of them. Again, just be careful. That game I am watching a little bit. That one I'm more interested in watching, at least paying attention to, than the Ohio State-Wisconsin game. And I believe the Michigan State game is on Peacock, so it won't be available publicly. So at least I'll be score watching it. More here. Who do you think Texas Tech plays this weekend? Who do you think they're playing? They're playing Arizona State. Now, at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the season, preseason, fall camp that time, summer, spring, I think a lot of us look over the schedules, thought, oh, this could be the biggest game in the Big 12. And it turns out, it kind of is, but not really anymore. I think that Utah game for Texas Tech was that game, or at least or at the very least what the Arizona State game should have been. But it's not getting noticed nationally, which, is fine, but we'll talk about it. I'm concerned here for Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech has been very dominant. It's very assuring. So, the ACC is sort of what the Big 12 was last year. The ACC is very much so, or actually, no, take that back. The SEC is what the Big 12 was the last couple of years. A lot of chaos and a lot of teams beating each other up. Look, I still think they are America's college football conference. So I agree with Josh Pate. But even though Texas Tech has been very dominant, they have good defense, they have an efficient offense. Brenton Morton, when he's healthy, even though he's been hurt, even the backup guys fairly decent. But when he's healthy, Brenton Morton, he's actually gone a lot better than he was last year. And I think, too, Joey McGuire, as a head coach, has gone more confident, not necessarily, playing to win the game and being conservative, being more aggressive, I believe. So even though they've been very dominant, I'm still concerned here. They're not necessarily going to go unscathed here. Now they probably are, or at least they have the potential to go through the entire rest of the season, with no loss. But I don't know. I mean, you're going to root to Arizona State, hostile environment. It's a team that has their quarterback returning, so it's not going to be the turnover machine and Jeff Sims. So at least you're not dealing with him. So that's that is. If you're a Arizona State fan, at least you're happy you're dealing with him at quarterback. But I don't know. Just something weird about something about this game feels weird to me. It just feels like to me there could be something happening here. So because it's on the road, because it's a team in Arizona State that everyone's sort of writing off, I kind of have a suspicion that with Sam Levitt coming back, it's a team that it's very experienced veterans. Someone in Kenny Dillingham, who I do trust as a head coach. As much as I love Texas Tech, I love them. Joe McGuire, I love how they have built this team through the portal, at least in a way that has actually seen a really good return on investment. I'm definitely concerned here for Texas Tech. Again, it's on the road. Again, I just don't see any teams, especially in the Big 12, even the best teams, getting through the conference undefeated. I mean, you saw Iowa State go from 5-0 to 5-2 very quickly. So this one's in the red category, very concerned. This next one here, no one else is talking about it too. Very, very mysteriously quiet. except for, I don't know, if you live in Starkville, Mississippi, or in Gainsville, Florida, which is not far from where I'm at here in Jacksonville. It's Mississippi State going to Florida. This one's in the red category. I am very concerned here because of the fact that I just don't know where we're going to get Florida. And I think we're in uncharted territory for Billy Napier. And the reason why I say that is because, and I've said this before, and other folks have also echoed this as well, we have not seen Billy Napier, at least at Florida, his teams necessarily quit. Like, they've usually have some fights now. Now, there's been moments where they've quit. Last week against Texas A&M, especially after halftime, late in the LSU game, they started to quit. But they haven't done that in a major sample size, especially with DJ Lagway as their quarterback, who is their best option. But after last week, and just some of the stuff you're hearing about, there's potential. I mean, I don't feel like confident saying this, but there has been rumblings and theories and leaks that there might be an announcement coming either way this weekend on Sunday, because they have the bye week coming up, of a potential regime change there with Bill Napier. So again, because of all that, because of all the negativity surrounding Florida right now, and there's no one's happy. I just don't know what we're going to get from Florida. Again, I don't know right now. It's a very, very odd situation for them because, again, you would think, knowing Billy Napier's history and his ability to get these teams up, especially when Lagway's been the quarterback. After last week and how sort of demoralizing that was in the second half, I just don't know what this looks like for them. I honestly don't. It's very odd for me. And Mississippi State, well, it's a team that Florida should be able to handle in terms of like the talent roster. They're more talented than them. They have obviously the much better quarterback, and defense is actually pretty good for Florida. But even then, it's just I don't know what we're going to get from Florida. And Mississippi State is a team at least offensively can get you, right? I mean, go ask Arizona State and Kelly Dillingham, right? I mean, as they run the Baylor Bryles stuff, this veer and shoot stuff, it's very complicated to stop. And Mississippi State and them still have not won an SEC game yet and have not had that marquee big win for that staff yet at all since they've been there. This could be it for them. And if this does happen, that would be a very, very fitting way to end the Billy Napier tenure at Florida. So this one's in the red category. I know Florida's favored by, 9.5, I believe, from FanDuel. If I were to bet this, which I don't personally, but we use it for research and I guess for entertainment, if I were betting this on paper, I would take Mississippi State to cover mightily. I mean, I think anything above a touchdown, at least at this point with Florida, no, they're not going to cover. So this one I am extremely concerned about. Now, lastly here, we have not talked about this game at all. Missouri at Auburn. I believe Missouri is a 1.5-point favorite. So it's a very narrow point spread, so very weird. Now, I have not checked College Football Nerds the model on this. I think we could do that. We have some time here. We're not let's see here, nerds. I guess we could check it out, the model, as we're here. Kind of to see what their model believes, what the potential could be. But I don't think I looked at this yet. So this is the first time looking at it. So I guess we're doing research on live here. But yeah, I was just curious what the model is. Because I know the line is 1.5. I'm pretty sure it's 1.5. Missouri on the road. They have it mainly as a pick'em. So they have the score like 13.3, 13.7 in favor of Missouri. So their model is kind of in line with the FanDuel thing. It's almost like very close to a pick'em. I want Auburn to win so bad here because it's not just the fact that I used to live in the state and I understand the Auburn fan base and whatnot. I know a lot of folks who are emotionally invested in it. I just want them to have fun, man. I really do. They have had such a bad history, at least this decade, of, besides 2020, no winning season at all. Like, there's been a bunch of 5-7s and 6-7s. Nothing really fun to write home about for Auburn this decade. And it's been probably the worst stretch in Auburn football I can remember. Probably have to go way before my time to find a stretch for Auburn where it's been this bad. And I just want them to have success. I mean, if you look at Hugh Freeze, he has not had very many big wins. The only big one he's had is the A&M game last year, and that was a very much so kind of like this, a situational thing. But the thing is, though, it's a little bit different because last year, it was late in the year. Auburn at that point had started to get momentum, right? I think it was like they beat Kentucky, so they were kind of building some momentum a little bit. But they're not building momentum right now. They have not won a game, by the way, a game at all, period, since against South Alabama. And that was back like 2 months ago almost. So that's like insane to me. They have not won a game yet at all in the last few weeks. They have not done it yet. Why would I believe they would? Well, they have good receivers. They still have that. They have a quarterback in Jackson Arnold who, look, I'm no fan of. Obviously, OU fans are correct about him. Him running the football. You saw this a little bit last week with Ty Simpson at Bama, that, him running the football hurt Missouri a little bit. It wasn't a whole lot, but when he did, it was very efficient. Can he do that? I think he can. But the problem is that for Auburn, all that can't be true. And look, their defense under DJ Durkin has been fantastic. It's been no problems with that. Their defense is actually legitimately good, and that's a shame, kind of like with Florida and Billy Napier, that they're wasting a kind of a good, like a sneaky good defense. I think Auburn ranks up with top 15, I believe, so it's actually kind of high. So that'd be like the highest since like the Kevin Steele era, when they had all those guys left over from the Will Muschamp recruiting classes. So that's kind of insane that they're actually having a good defense, but then their offense, again, it's very much so like the Malzahn years. It's like good defense, the offense is trash. So, well, I think Auburn defensively can create some problems for Missouri. Or at least on the defense can create some offensive issues for Missouri. I think they can. I just don't know if the offense can really do anything against Missouri's defense. I mean, if you really think about it, Missouri, in terms of their pass rush and their ability to get to the quarterback, is a lot better than Georgia's. And Auburn's offensive line is not that great. So that concerns me for Auburn. Also, I don't know what the stadium atmosphere is going to be like. I know it's not the best comparison, but if things go sideways this Saturday for Auburn against Missouri, I have a bad feeling that it's going to look like sort of like how Penn State looked like last week against Northwestern. Like, just very bad, like very toxic. No one's happy. Everyone's mad and whatnot. So this can get very ugly. And obviously, the thinking is that this might be it for Hugh Freeze. They lose. You have the rest of the schedule coming up. There's really no incentive to keep him around. You probably see a coaching change on Sunday. So if in the best interest for Hugh Freeze, you may want to win this game and sort of, keep things going. And what's really a shame, too, is, again, Auburn, at least from the talent standpoint, this is something that, Bud Elliott pointed out a couple of days ago on Cover 3. It's that what's such a shame here is that Hugh Freeze, in terms of recruiting, he's actually done a really good job, which is insane to me. They have done such a good job in terms of recruiting on defense, upgrading that receiving core to even better than what Malzahn had, clearly. But they just can't get the quarterback right. And, Bud pointed us out, look, do you really want to make sure you keep this thing intact, at least the roster talent-wise? Maybe you do. Just say, you know what? Let's go back to the, transfer portal again, and let's hope it's, a better situation maybe instead of what we had to deal with last year. Maybe you do that. Maybe you just invest all that money into getting a really big quarterback to enter the portal. But I don't know if they can do that. I don't know if the Auburn boosters, the fans, the athletic director, John Cohen, I don't know if they will allow Hugh Freeze to get that runway to do that. Again, I kind of understand where Bud's coming from. Look, that would be the best case scenario for Auburn is, look, you keep Hugh Freeze around, you tell him, look, you can't trot out Jackson Arnold out there again, upgrade the O-line, get a better QB, and let's really actually get our shit together because we're wasting a really good potential pro prospect in Cam Coleman. And we're wasting a really good defense, or at least a really good defensive unit for this year and potentially even next year. So, yeah, I think it's in the best interest for Auburn to win, but I don't think it's going to happen. Like, if I were picking this game, like in terms of betting, I think Missouri's going to win if they cover, which is not saying much because they're a 1.5-point favorite. So, that one's in the yellow category. Some of my nose here, I think it's a piece of dust. Apologies for that on camera on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, just ignore that. But, upset alert segment. Very, very juicy. A lot of things to talk about. So, we are going to end the show here with Bucs Lions prediction. So, according to FanDuel, Lions are a 5.5-point favorite. Makes sense. It's at home. Obviously, they're in wounded Lion mode after last week against Kansas City, which I did watch a little bit. For Tampa, though, look, if they're to pull this off, if they're to have, what did this be, their fourth straight win now? Fourth straight win, third straight win, I believe, actually. Yeah, third straight. How would Tampa win this game? Well, their defense better show up because the Lions' offense, even though, yes, the Green Bay game still exists, and yes, the KC game exists from last week on Sunday Night Football, they're still a really good offense. They've been putting up a whole bunch of numbers. Now, granted, a lot of those teams are, kind of the middling teams, like the Bears, I believe, was one of them, and I think the Bengals, I believe, they played. So they've been dominating decent teams, but not been the top tier teams, right? When they face the top tier teams, both in the NFC and AFC, it's not looked pretty. It hasn't looked pretty. But for Tampa, though, I mean, look, as much as they looked better in terms of the secondary on Sunday, with Jamel Dean getting the pick and Levante David getting that pick against Seattle, even though they've looked good in terms of their getting turnovers and stuff through interceptions and whatnot, I still don't trust the Bucs secondary because they still have good receivers like Jameson Williams, and they also have Jahmyr Gibbs, and look, Jared Goff's still a good quarterback. So the Bucs defense here, if they're going to win this game, they really need to step it up, because last week you were facing a backup quarterback in Mac Jones and a more of a run-oriented offense with Kyle Shanahan. You are going to be facing a much more pass-heavy, more airing it out type of team, in which you have struggled in historically, going back to last year and at times this year in games that you actually won. So I don't know if the Bucs can really step up defensively. They can. They have the talent to do so. I mean, they have guys who can do it. Todd Bowles, as a lot of folks have pointed out, I've also noticed this too, not been too aggressive in terms of blitzing, which is interesting, a little bit different from him. Maybe it is him sort of adjusting to where the league is going in terms of, hey, if we blitz, look, we could get sacked the quarterback, but the problem is, though, if some of these guys who get the ball really quickly, they could potentially, hit us with a big play. And that's happened to them last year. So I wonder if that is a new thing they are starting to bring in. But I do believe that will be the challenge here. If they can't stop this offense, because it's a good offense. They, I believe, lead the league in scoring. So they're the top 5 offense, I believe, in terms of points. So Tampa secondary, look, again, like I've been saying, I know the secondary looked good all the way into preseason. One preseason wasn't going to fix the secondary. It just wasn't. And so far, I've been somewhat validated in that. And I don't care if they've been winning all these games. Another thing, too, is, I mean, look, the Bucs are getting Mike Evans back, which is huge, but is he fully healthy, right? I mean, I think Ibuka should be ready to go. I mean, they have good talent below them. They have decent depth. But, I mean, look, some of these guys are rookies, right? Emeka Ibuka's a rookie. Tess Johnson's a rookie. So they're still young kids, right? They're making mistakes. And, look, some of these guys made mistakes last week against the 49ers. There's a couple drops and whatnot. Some of them come easy catches. So I just wonder, going on the road, a hostile environment, I think those folks are there in Detroit. They do show up, contrary to popular belief. So they, it's a hostile crowd. It's a team that's in wounded animal mode or wounded lion mode. It's a team that's very desperate. And also this could be a potential, rematch game. We could see this again in the playoffs for the NFC Championship game. So again, I also, a couple more things here with this game for the Bucs. I mean, look, the Lions, they're missing a lot of guys in the secondary. I think Branch, he'll be out after the fight last week. So he's out. There's also some injuries too, I believe, for the Lions. So it's a secondary that can be get on or can be had. So, if Mike's healthy, if Buka's healthy, if, Tez Johnson and Sterling Shepard, if those guys can get loose, you can get some big plays for sure. But, I don't know for sure. I mean, again, that's not a guarantee they will. Also, sort of something we brought up before, both in college and also with the Bucs, is that the theory that we have, sort of we came up with this over the summer, is train element theory. And we talked about this when talking about Texans game, and I believe also talked about it with a couple of college football games. I didn't talk about the Eagles game. That was more of an example of the red light theory. And ultimately the Bucs got caught because they were having, the win. They were winning all those games very closely, right? And eventually it was going to catch up to them, and did. But train element theory is, again, if you're new here, you haven't heard me explain this. Train derailment theory in football, and if you've ever seen a train derail, a video or, for some reason you've ever watched it before, it's not the same as a train crash where it's a car, God forbid, or whatever. A derailment is that, you see a freight train going by, and maybe one of the box cars gets off the tracks, or maybe there's an issue with the wheels of the box cars or any of the freight cars it's carrying. And some of that could be, a mechanical issue, or maybe the track's not, properly secured or maintained. Just the small little things, the whole micro things, if you will, the small things that pile up over time that could lead to a major accident, or in this case, a train derailment. For football, for at least for football reasons. That's what I wonder for Tampa, right? It's just the little things, right? Maybe you allow the Lions to get the passing game going, and the secondary is not doing too well, or maybe the offense goes straight and out, and maybe I don't know. I mean, like turnovers potentially, and there's not been a whole lot for Tampa this year. I think Baker's only thrown 2 picks, I believe. So those pile up. Special teams too. While they haven't been a problem yet for Tampa, at least in the last couple of weeks, I still don't trust it. So there could be a special teams error. So again, just thinking about it again for Tampa, it's on the road. It's a team that's very desperate. Wants to, I'm sure they've seen all this stuff about Tampa being, the number 1 team in the NFL and the power rankings, and they're number 1 seed in the AFC. Obviously, that would change. Obviously, they lose, or it could stay if they win, right? But I don't know. I just something about this game makes me feel that this will be a loss for Tampa. I think there's a lot of things to overcome here. Again, even with the guys coming back from injury, I just don't know if they're healthy. Not to mention, it's a team in Detroit that is the best offense you've faced all year and is going to be the best passing team you'll see all year. And it's going to be a challenge for you. And, this league is not necessarily a league that, especially today in the NFL, where it's, you're not going to see a lot of teams that go, 15-2 or whatnot. It's not very good. That's very rare to see that happen. I don't expect Tampa to do that. I think Tampa will be losing a lot more games. It's not a whole lot, but they will lose games. I think this is one of them. I like Detroit here. I think Jared Goff could potentially have a big day throwing the football against a Bucs secondary. Now, well, yes, they've had moments of getting turnovers and stuff like that, but that been pretty. I mean, I think Mac Jones still threw for near 200 yards, I believe, and then Sam Darnold had a pretty decent game, so or at least a decent day of throwing the ball. So I expect that from Jared Goff. I expect this Lion offense to really expose the Tampa secondaries. I think they win. Lions win. I think they cover, and that would mean Tampa would obviously go down in the standings, but my opinion of them will not change. I think for Tampa, it's just win your division. And luckily for them, they are getting one of the worst teams in the NFL, which happens to be the Saints in their division, which is the big rival, big rivalry there for Tampa. So that's happening next the following weeks. That'll be that next Sunday. So it'll actually be a pretty short week for them. So, and I believe it's on the road too. I'm actually know, is it on the road or at home? Should probably check. Pretty sure it's at home. Let's see here. Schedule. No, it's on the road. So, back-to-back road stretch there. And then they have a bye week, and then they have, and then they get rewarded with playing the New England Patriots and the Bills. So have fun with that. But so I think the Lions win and they cover. And no, I don't believe this will be the last loss for Tampa. I think there is, based on that schedule, man. If you look at the schedule again, the Saints. I mean, look, it's a second straight road game. Concern there, but the Saints are kind of a dead team, so I think you should take care of them. Kind of last year a little bit, but it is a rivalry game, so you never know. It is a divisional opponent. Then you have the Patriots and Bills. Those could be you're probably going to split those. Rams before Thanksgiving. That's a little concerning. Cardinals, you should take care of them. Saints, and it levels off after that. You have the Dolphins and Panthers to wrap up the year. So, I mean, look, these next few weeks. I mean, Detroit, Saints, Patriots, Bills, Rams, all those games you can lose. You can split some of these. You can win most of them, right? There's potential you can lose most of them, win some of them, lose lose some, or you can win most of them. So, we'll see. But I think they do lose Monday. I think the Lions do win, they cover. And that's it for the show. And of course, we'll be back on Tuesday. Our reaction show, of course, on Saturday night, Sunday mornings. Stay tuned for that on YouTube. That'll be pre-recorded. A little recap there. But by the way, as we're here, as we are sort of ending hurricane season, or at least winding down hurricane season. Of course, living in Florida, we keep an eye on it. And this year, for the most part, we have been, prayer hands. Haven't had any issues yet for, I think, the first time in a long time. No real problems here in Florida with tropical stuff, but keeping an eye on the Western Caribbean there. Is that time of the year where we do get those systems that form in that part of the basin, if you will, for the Atlantic and the Western Caribbean that could potentially move into Florida. But there is some signal there for the models. So we're watching it again, much like last year. If you have to move some stuff around, we can do that. But so far, so good. So that's it for the show. That's it. So enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll have a recap video on Saturday night, early Sunday morning. It'll be uploaded that by then. And we'll cover all the games. We'll talk about it. Of course, we'll have our show Tuesday. So for the live show, until Tuesday, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the games. Take care of yourselves and each other. And until then, we'll see you on the next stream.